Man and woman embrace on a balcony under a starry sky as she narrates her death. Her elegant dress pools around her feet. The white-haired man Felix lifts her chin and calls her Amelia before pulling her into an embrace. Tucked against his shoulder, Amelia's blue eyes are wide as she thinks of his training. Felix whispers Amelia's name, confessing with a gentle smile that he has always loved her. He holds her close, admitting he's been waiting for this moment his entire life. Lying on the floor, Amelia reflects that after 700 years, she will finally be freed from eternity. As he kisses her, she thinks that this will be her first and last time. A woman looks out a window at a peaceful vista, the narration setting the scene in the Charlier Empire. The founding king, Iris Charlier, is shown on his throne after having protected the land from war. A family tree shows that over 700 years, the king's descendants forgot the primordial promise. Chains shatter, symbolizing a broken pact. As a glowing key appears, a shocked Amelia realizes the king is dead. A blonde man first asks Amelia to devote herself to him, then cruelly admits he only used her. Clutching her dress, she feels the contract with him disappear. Believing she has no reason to live, she raises a glowing dagger to end her life. She drives the blade into her chest, but is horrified to find she cannot die. A grand manner appears as a voice off-screen delivers marvelous news to Amelia. A gray-haired man gleefully announces a marriage proposal from Lord Iris for a failure like her. A pink-haired Amelia is stunned to receive a proposal from the young hero, Lord Iris Charlier. She reflects that she lacks the magical strength of her sisters. Surrounded by thorns, she explains her only power is the ability to nullify. She wonders why he would marry someone who can't wield the elements, thinking it's a mistake. Her father proudly proclaims their house is blessed by the gods as she quietly watches him. A blonde man, Lord Iris, arrives with a bouquet, surprising Amelia with his presence. He eagerly asks for her hand in marriage, explaining he came himself because he couldn't wait. She nervously clutches the fabric of her dress. She tries to refuse, explaining she is no different from a commoner without magic. Lord Iris gently takes her hand, telling her he chose her, Amelia Ronan specifically. Looking up at him with hope, the naive, noble girl found herself unable to refuse his offer. Swept away by his proposal, she pledged her loyalty and vowed to protect the country with him. She became the vessel of God, sacrificing her body without knowing it was all a lie. Standing alone in a dark hall, she realizes the curse of immortality remains on her body. She coldly asks if he has any intention of releasing her. A brilliant aura of divine power emanates from her body. A new empress is described as a stunning but cunning woman who eliminated Iris's entire bloodline. Knock, knock! Amelia looks toward the door, a small orb of light hovering over her hand. A man in a green coat rushes in to report the former emperor's death, which Amelia says she expected. As he reports that Queen Isolde has staged a coup, the man asks Lady Amelia where she is going. Cloaked for travel, Amelia announces her departure to find Iris's surviving bloodline, entrusting the marquisate to Laelius. Her contract broken, she still cannot die, and must find the blessed child who can finally kill her. The scene shifts to a grand, sunlit palace. A blonde queen in red, Isolde, furiously orders her servants to find and eliminate everyone with a claim to the throne. A maid nervously reminds Queen Isolde that the Charlier bloodline carries the god's covenant. Isolde sneers, questioning the god's protection and asking if the maid fears them more than her. Eek! The terrified maid bows deeply, assuring the queen that she does not. A horse gallops frantically through the dark woods. A servant urges his young master to hurry, as a boy named Felix Charlier wonders how things came to this. Felix remembers the bloody scene of the emperor and his entire family being murdered. Fleeing through the forest, he desperately wishes he had the power to do more than just run. A white-haired boy with red eyes vows to reclaim the Charlier Empire from someone named Isolde Helcourts. An ornate frame presents other tales of romance and reincarnation. A figure flees through a moonlit forest as a voice announces their target has been found. A hooded archer takes aim with his bow. Swish! An arrow pierces flesh, splattering blood. The white-haired boy collapses to the ground. Staggering to his feet, the boy finds himself surrounded by cloaked assassins, his companion fallen. A woman with purplish hair shields the boy, identifying him as Felix Ramsel. The woman furiously demands to know why they're targeting the young master. Their mission, a voice reveals, is to erase the former emperor's bloodline. The hooded archer coldly states that this is their duty. The woman insists the young master is not the emperor's illegitimate child, calling it a baseless rumor. The archer declares the truth irrelevant. Their orders are to eliminate even the suspicious. Felix seethes, identifying the cunning witch Isolde Helcourts as the one behind this. An assassin lunges, ordering Felix to die for the Empire's future. Young master. His companion leaps in front of the blade, taking the fatal blow as Felix watches in horror. Mortally wounded, the woman, Julianne, urges him to run before collapsing as he cries out her name. "You're next," the assassin declares, raising his blade for the final strike. Clang Felix parries the attack, but realizes he is hopelessly outmatched. Desperate and cornered, he remembers a charm his father gave him. A memory of his father giving him the charm surfaces as Felix cries out for him in the present. The charm around his neck erupts in a golden light, and a woman in a blue gown magically appears, floating before a stunned Felix. Felix stares, bewildered by the sudden magical intervention. The assassins are shocked, but one orders her killed. The mysterious woman smirks, deciding to put them all to sleep. A silent pulse of purple light emanates from the woman. The assassins collapse, groaning under the force of her overwhelming magic. Kneeling over Julianne's body, Felix demands to know who the woman is and what she has done. The dark-haired woman turns to face him in the silent forest. She introduces herself as Amelia and asks if he is hurt. Amelia extends a glowing hand to the stunned and grieving boy. Taking her hand, Felix is lifted into the air by wind magic, exclaiming, "Whoa!" as they ascend. A glowing orb of light is directed toward the fallen Julianne with instructions to return her to the mansion. Felix marvels that they're flying as Amelia declares they are leaving. Amelia and Felix fly away, leaving the abandoned carriage behind in the dark woods. They arrive at another carriage, where a worried man greets them. Amelia dismisses his concern and asks to be let through. Inside, Amelia gently cleans his face and asks for his name, which he gives as Felix Ramsell. His red eyes widen as she tends to his wounds. Amelia gazes back at him with a calm, appraising look. She asks why assassins were trying to kill him, but Felix admits he doesn't know. Amelia considers his answer with a thoughtful, knowing expression. As Amelia prepares to leave in a different carriage, Felix calls out for her to wait. He stares at the noble crest emblazoned on the carriage door. He recognizes the crest of the Ronin family, a powerful neutral faction, realizing Amelia must be an incredible mage. Amelia stands alone, gazing at the moonlit mountains. Felix, now an orphan, decides that Amelia is his only hope. He runs to her and begs to become her disciple, shocking her. Amelia politely declines, explaining that she is not interested in taking on disciples. Her past experiences teaching magic seem to weigh on her decision. Dejected, Felix reflects on his near-death experience and his own powerlessness. He remembers a happier time, holding hands with his kind maid, Julianne. Felix tearfully vows to get stronger for revenge so he'll never lose anyone again. Amelia coolly asks him what she stands to gain by helping him. He earnestly offers his loyalty and promises to repay her kindness in the future. Amelia skeptically considers his offer of loyalty as a past memory surfaces. Her gaze intensifies as she stares directly at him. A flashback reveals her sorrowful conclusion that she knows the true cost of loyalty. A flustered Felix insists loyalty is the only thing he has to offer her. She makes a deal. She'll help if he can summon her again like he did before. Overjoyed, Felix beams and thanks her for the opportunity. He hugs her tightly, promising that he will definitely return to her. Suddenly, a clasp on Felix's cloak begins to glow, catching Amelia's attention. Her eyes widen in shock at the unexpected pulse of magic. Felix smiles, unaware, and asks what the matter is. Amelia assures him she keeps her promises and tells him to go on. She gives him directions to an inn in the Ronin territory, asking if he has money. Amelia watches him go with a worried expression. She muses that for her to be summoned, that girl must be truly special. A fond memory of her holding a smiling Felix flashes through her mind. Putting her hood up, Amelia turns and walks away into the dark woods. At an inn, a hooded Felix asks for a room but is rudely rejected as a penniless brat. He frantically insists he has money, clutching his pouch as a man lurks nearby. Dejected, Felix sighs as he wanders alone through a dark alley. A hand suddenly grabs him from behind. A thief with a knife threatens him, demanding he hand over his money. "Erg!" Felix's eyes flare red as he refuses, grabbing the thief's wrist with surprising force. The enraged thief raises his knife to strike the defiant boy. Ow! Felix now holds the knife, but the struggle has left a cut on his neck. Kia! The commotion draws the attention of passers-by, startling the thief. The assassins have found him. Recognizing the archer, Felix flees deeper into the alleys in terror. Cornered by two assassins, he realizes in despair that he was found too quickly. The golden charm on his necklace flares with a brilliant light. Amelia appears in a flash of magic, floating above a stunned Felix. Huh? She looks down, bewildered by the sudden summoning. Recognizing the situation, she realizes she has been summoned to his side once again. She sighs, lamenting that Felix being targeted makes her feel like a tragic fairy tale princess. An assassin unleashes a barrage of fireballs, shouting, "Take this." Amelia calmly counters, summoning freezing water that instantly extinguishes the flames and encases the assassins in ice. Felix stares in disbelief at her incredible power, realizing she froze them in an instant. Another woman arrives with guards, identifies one of the frozen men as a mage, and orders magic-suppressing cuffs. The woman, revealed to be Amelia in a different cloak, tells a happy Felix to come with her. She flies through the air with Felix, arriving at a grand mansion where a butler welcomes her back. The butler notices her companion and politely welcomes the guest inside. Amazed by the mansion's beauty, Felix follows as Amelia instructs the butler to prepare a room for him. After the butler offers him a bath, Amelia touches Felix's cheek, and he agrees to wash up. Felix thinks to himself that he needs to see her properly once he's cleaned up. The scene transitions to a lavish and elegantly furnished room. Now refreshed, Felix confidently asks if she will finally take him on as her apprentice. Dressed in a fine red gown, Amelia states that she always keeps her promises without fail. She asks his name and age, and he replies that he is Felix, age 13. Flashbacks show a younger Felix struggling to control his innate fire and water magic. Amelia contemplates his request with a thoughtful expression. She openly wonders if she can manage teaching him. Felix passionately declares he'll give it his all and do anything to become stronger. She agrees with a stern warning: no complaints, or he'll be expelled on the spot for lacking potential. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Felix hugs her tightly, exclaiming, "Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much." The force of his hug sends them tumbling onto a divan, where she remarks he's like an energetic little puppy. Looking up at her with earnest red eyes, Felix swears she'll never regret making him her apprentice. As he swears his loyalty, Amelia gazes down at him, her expression unreadable. Her eyes suddenly fixate on the golden pendant around his neck, triggering a memory of a blonde man wearing the same one. In a flash of recognition, she realizes the pendant is from someone named Iris. A note explains the pendant is a magical artifact created by Iris specifically to summon her. Holding the charm, her thoughts race as she questions why this child possesses it. A flashback begins, showing a younger, pink-haired Amelia recalling how she was once asked to sacrifice herself for her nation. She remembers being deceived and manipulated, ambushed for a sacrifice after a tender kiss from the blonde man. In a cherished memory, the blonde man, Iris, lovingly tells her she is his dearest. She joyfully recalls the moment Iris proposed to her. Thinking of herself as a failure in her family, marrying Sir Iris felt like an impossible dream. As their wedding day grew closer, she walked with him through a garden, still in disbelief over her good fortune. A close-up reveals Iris's charming but cunning smile. The younger Amelia looks back at him, her face flushed with love and innocence. On the day of the wedding, the scene shifts to a range of vast, snow-covered mountains. A grand, isolated cathedral stands ready for the ceremony. At the altar, Iris tells Amelia she looks stunning, and she shyly returns the compliment. A priest begins the ceremony, asking Iris Yule Charlier and Amelia Ronan to take their vows. Together, they both swear to remain with one another. The priest smiles, seemingly satisfied with their vows. They seal their marriage with a kiss, as Amelia thinks how honored she is to be chosen. Shink. The beautiful moment is shattered as Amelia's eyes widen in confused shock against a backdrop of splattered blood. The horrible truth is revealed. Iris has stabbed her with a dagger during their kiss. A glowing red sacrificial circle materializes on the floor beneath her feet. Reaching a hand out weakly, she sees Iris standing calmly with a bloody dagger and whispers his title. As she collapses onto the ritual circle, he coldly orders the patriarchal ritual to begin. Iris tells her he needs her power, and she realizes with horror that his words of love were all lies to trick her. His face twists into a vicious snarl as he declares she will serve him and the Empire until she turns to dust, confirming there was never any love. Tears of betrayal stream down her face as she questions if their entire relationship was a lie. Rumble. The ritual's power begins to surge. A massive pillar of light erupts from the magic circle, piercing the sky. Iris laughs triumphantly before the blinding light. Amelia realizes he deceived even the gods just to use her, and she can feel their divine fury rising. Her heartbreak turns to rage as she vows, "I won't forgive you." A mysterious light begins to emanate from her wound, glowing with immense power. Ugh! The backlash of divine energy sends Iris and a priest flying as another man cries out in alarm. Amelia lies unconscious on the floor, the strange, ethereal power still glowing from her chest. Iris stands amidst cheering silhouettes, raising his fist and declaring the sealing of the god a success. As he orders a subjugation contract formed, he twists the dagger still in her wound, causing her to cry out for him to stop. He holds a glowing, key-like artifact over her, declaring that as the vessel of the god, she will serve his bloodline. He decrees she will serve the nation forever as its goddess, then plunges the key into her, binding her soul with a sharp pain. Paralyzed and glowing, she can only watch as he laughs maniacally at his victory. Prince Iris became emperor, and with the unbreakable contract, he repeatedly used the god's vessel to harm others. In the present, the flashback ends with the current, dark-haired Amelia watching over an aged, sleeping Iris, reminding him that he belongs to the Empire for all eternity. An elderly, long-haired man rests with a grim expression. A young, blonde emperor on his throne addresses Amelia Ronin as the vessel of the god. Bound by chains, Amelia defiantly asks why she must use her inherited power for the new emperor. She screams in her mind that she no longer wants to live, only to be used. Even with Iris's death, the ornate key of the subjugation contract remains unbroken. Commanded to serve, a chained Amelia questions her fate, refusing to be used any longer. Gra! Amelia collapses to the floor in a moment of utter despair. She screams in anguish, recalling the hundreds of years she has tried and failed to die, her immortal body trapping her. Suddenly, a divine voice calls her, "My vessel," startling her. As she floats in a serene space, the voice instructs her to seek the child of blessing. A vision of a white-haired man appears as the voice explains only that child can break her curse. Clinging to this new information, she wonders if there is truly a way to break the curse. A faint blush of hope appears as she quietly wonders if she could finally be free. Back in the present, Amelia watches over the sleeping Felix, her thoughts returning to him. She deduces that his pendant marks him as a descendant of Iris's bloodline. She coldly considers if letting the boy die would bring her closer to her own freedom. The camera focuses on Felix, sleeping peacefully and unaware of her dark thoughts. While she resents Iris and the Emperors, she decides abandoning his bloodline may be pointless. She gently strokes his hair, admitting to herself that the boy has done nothing wrong to her. Gazing at the moon, she resolves not to waste her life on resentment. She only wants to be free. The next morning, a serene Amelia enjoys a cup of tea and a bright conservatory. An energetic Felix bursts in, happily wishing her a good morning. In a cute chibi form, he eagerly begs Lady Amelia to begin his training. She smiles, thinking that despite his lineage, he is nothing like Iris. With a gentle smile, she stands up, her mind made up. As she walks ahead of him, she decides she isn't cruel enough to kill a child and will train him for now. The scene transitions to the magnificent and perfectly manicured gardens of the estate. Her lesson begins as she stands before Felix in the garden. She quizzes him on the 4 basic elements, which he correctly names. A shimmering golden crystal materializes above her elegant hand. Summoning 4 elemental orbs, she explains his innate element will feel the most natural. Blushing with determination, Felix excitedly agrees to try. A sudden vision flashes, showing a stern Amelia and a shocked, older-looking Felix. In the vision, she tells an adult Felix that her greatest desire is to kill him herself. He asks with sorrow if her love for him was a lie. She smirks, calling their shared fate a curse that was once called a blessing. He cups her face, confessing he has waited to be killed by the one he loves. Declaring he fell in love with her because she is his end, he pulls her into a kiss. As he looks on, she holds the glowing contract key and asks him to release her from the world. He takes the key and plunges it into her heart as red petals fall. The vision ends, and she wonders if Felix is the child of blessing, who can finally grant her freedom by killing her. With a determined smile, she decides to grant Felix's wish and raise him to be strong and wise. The scene shifts to a grand imperial palace under a clear blue sky. A pair of fists slam down onto a desk in frustration. A blonde empress furiously scolds a cloaked figure for letting their targets escape twice. She snarls upon learning their last location was the Ronin territory, the witch's domain. Crumpling a report, she resolves to eliminate all obstacles in her path. She tears the paper, vowing death to anyone who dares obstruct her reign. In a flashback, a voice reacts with shock to the idea of marrying into the Charlier Empire. A younger, distraught blonde woman demands to know if her father is serious about the marriage. The blonde woman insists to an older man that she was raised to be the queen of Hellcourts. Her father tiredly acknowledges she has the qualities to rule the kingdom. He continues to speak, his expression grim. Her face contorts in horror as she whispers, "No, this can't be." The scene shifts to a grand, sparkling imperial palace with golden spires. The caption explains she was forced to marry into the Charlier Empire to guarantee an alliance. In a carriage, a younger version of her and a white-haired man wave to a cheering crowd. A close-up reveals her cunning and confident smile. A blonde man at a desk dismisses a matter, saying it's been entrusted to the minister. The blonde woman stands nearby, unimpressed, wondering if this man is truly the emperor. She clenches her jaw, thinking she is far more suited to rule. She resolves to exploit her husband's incompetence and slowly seize power for herself. With a devious smile, she vows that one day she will rule the empire completely. Back in the present, the Empress decides she will also have them hand over Felix. In another memory, a blonde man advises her that using imperial authority on minor matters erodes its prestige. She turns to him with a knowing, sly smile. He kisses her hand, conceding that she's right. Surrounded by roses, he looks at her lovingly and calls her, "My precious Gideon." The man, Gideon, asks if the Ronin family is a real threat, but she dismisses them as a Finnish border marquise. The blonde man listens to her with a confident smirk. He explains the Ronin family's members are skilled in magic and that a Witch of Time is born each generation. Gideon scoffs, finding the title Witch of Time ostentatious. She muses that if such a powerful girl exists, she would like to see her in person. The blonde man agrees with a knowing grin. Gideon declares she will summon the witch to her coronation. The scene transitions to the lush gardens of Emilia's estate. A young Felix attempts to conjure water magic, which sputters in his hands. He ponders his failure as Emilia watches from a distance. He switches his focus, successfully summoning a ball of fire. He reacts with surprise as the magic manifests. Wah! The flame suddenly erupts out of his control. Emilia watches impassively as the fire magic swirls wildly above him. Panicking, Felix cries out for Master Emilia. He rushes towards her, desperate for help. She calmly instructs him to focus on the desire to protect something to control his magic. Holding his hands, she asks him if there is something he wants to protect. His red eyes fill with a new, fierce determination. The fire magic in his hands transforms into calm, gentle water. He looks up with a proud, confident smirk. He gently brings her hand to his lips and kisses it. Emilia smiles warmly, telling him not to rush. Her gentle touch on his cheek makes him blush intensely. Looking up at her with adoration, Felix vows to become strong enough to protect her. A montage begins, showing Felix training relentlessly by running through a forest. He practices his fire magic, now holding it with focused control. After a long day of training, he sleeps soundly in his bed. As a slightly older Felix practices magic, Emilia wonders if he possesses a special potential. She watches his progress with a curious and pleased expression. A caption explains that expanded education and support made such growth possible. Thanks to these efforts, even a gifted orphan could thrive, as villagers and children cheer for Emilia. Emilia reflects quietly in the garden, a thoughtful expression on her face. Her aide reveals he was one of the orphans she once rescued. Her aide confirms her suspicion, revealing the boy is from the former emperor's bloodline. He speculates that Queen Isolde sent assassins after the boy, remembering Felix's terrified flight. The aide worries that harboring the boy will bring danger to Lady Emilia. Standing resolutely, Emilia declares that she doesn't care about the risk. She vows to protect Felix at all costs and raise him to be strong. Emilia wonders how powerful he must become to finally grant her freedom, urging him to grow up quickly. A young Felix proudly shows off his water magic, calling out to Master Emilia. He runs to her like an eager puppy, while she watches with her arms crossed. Stopping before her, he eagerly asks about the next step of his training. Emilia looks on with a pensive, distant expression. She realizes that no matter how strong he gets, Isolde won't be his only unkillable foe. Understanding her unspoken meaning, Felix agrees with wide-eyed shock. The scene shifts to a foreboding forest under a blood-red sky. A cloaked Felix looks around the woods, appearing nervous. Emilia warns him that the forest is teeming with magical beasts. She displays a map of the area, explaining that the beasts grow stronger deeper in, but also provide valuable crafting materials for him to hunt. A small, cat-like beast appears, and Emilia instructs him to attack it, warning that appearances can be deceiving. Determined, Felix agrees and summons swirling water magic to his hands. He commands the water to freeze into sharp blades of ice. His attack stops just short of the magical beast, which looks up innocently. Emilia observes him, noting his hesitation to kill even a monster. She warns that he can't afford such sentiment, as beasts strike the moment they see an opening. Suddenly, the small creature transforms into a massive, ferocious monster. As the beast claw descends, Felix thinks he can't always be the one protected, just as Amelia's barrier blocks the attack. Though terrified of killing, Felix grits his teeth, knowing he has to fight as the beast turns on Amelia. "Master Amelia!" he shouts, unleashing a volley of ice shards that strike the creature's side. As the beast dissolves, Amelia praises him, saying he can do it when he tries. Felix pants, exhausted but relieved after the intense battle. He anxiously scolds her for putting herself in danger, but she seems confused by his outburst. With a frustrated blush, he insists his concern is the most important thing. Amelia gazes at the boy with a soft, understanding look. She lectures him that rash actions don't guarantee success, as survival is often left to chance. Standing over him, she explains one must be prepared to kill to protect what's precious. A vision of an adult Felix lovingly embracing Amelia flashes through his mind. Amelia looks on, puzzled by his sudden silence. Blushing, Felix strengthens his resolve to grow up faster and become strong enough to protect her. Amelia watches him with a complex, unreadable expression. Whoa! Tossing a stone to lure another beast, Felix is shocked when it transforms into a massive, three-eyed monster. With growing confidence, Felix swings a magically enhanced sword at the roaring beast. After the fight, he admits to Amelia that he let his guard down. Later, Amelia arranges for Felix's education in etiquette and imperial studies, deciding to find a sword instructor herself. Her aide smiles, agreeing to carry out her commands. The scene transitions to the grand headquarters of the Ronin Territories Knights. A blonde man in a white uniform smiles, noting a noble lady has arrived for inspection. He guides Amelia, now in a formal blue dress, toward the training grounds. As they approach a large archway, the sounds of a commotion echo from within. Amelia asks what's happening, and the man explains there seems to be a problem with the trial sparring. Ha! A rugged man viciously parries a training staff. He spots an opening and brutally knees his opponent. Triumphant, he slings the staff over his shoulder and challenges the next fighter. A man in a white uniform suddenly shouts for them to stop. The uniformed man nervously tries to reason with the defiant brawler. A blonde man explains that the brawler is Rodan, a former mercenary, as Amelia listens. In the training yard, Rodan stands ready with his wooden staff. TCH. At a tavern, Rodan fumes over being rejected from the knights for his bad attitude. A man suddenly sucker punches Rodan from the side. Rodan furiously returns the punch, knocking the man back. Enraged, his attacker curses and begins to summon fire magic. A burst of flames erupts as Rodan gasps in shock. The fire suddenly vanishes, leaving Rodan stunned and confused. He looks down to see his assailants collapsed on the ground. A cloaked Amelia appears, calling the use of fire against a non-mage cowardly. With a sly smile, she offers him a job as a sword instructor. He reacts with disbelief as she explains she needs a combat teacher for her disciple. Rodan scoffs at the idea of her having a disciple. She assures him the pay will be generous. As a final offer, she promises to get him accepted into the Knight Order. He looks at an acceptance letter from the Ronin Knight Order in shock. The scene shifts to a sunlit, elegant room. Amelia holds a letter sealed with red wax. She reads the letter with a pensive expression. Her worried aide stands nearby, watching her reaction. He suggests the contents may just be a rumor that she can ignore. Believing it's foolish to avoid conflict, Amelia resolves to accept the Empress's invitation. A promotional page advertises several other romantic fantasy series. Her aide warns her that being called Witch of Time is a clear provocation. She calmly states that a peaceful discussion would be the best outcome. Her eyes narrow with a chilling, determined glint. A narration explains that while her contract forbids harming Iris's bloodline, Empress Isolde is not protected. With newfound resolve, Amelia tells her aide that she will not lose. She sips her tea, thinking they cannot let their guard down, as the invitation is likely a trap. Amelia stares ahead, deep in thought about the Empress's intentions. Her aide bows, accepting her decision. The scene transitions to the grand estate under a bright sky. Felix gasps, learning that Master Amelia is attending Empress Isolde's coronation. His expression fills with panic and fear. He rushes to Amelia, insisting the Empress must be scheming something. An empty room is shown as a thought bubble, explains that refusing the invitation would cause more trouble. Felix worries that the Empress has discovered he is being sheltered there. He sweats nervously, his anxiety growing. Desperate, he begs Amelia to let him accompany her. Amelia coldly denies his request, stating it's impossible. She dismisses his concerns, looking away from him indifferently. Turning to leave, she instructs her aide to take care of Felix. A smartly dressed Rodan arrives to fulfill a promise. He gently kisses Amelia's hand, vowing to repay his debt to her. She smiles, telling him he looks like a real knight now. As Felix glares, Amelia tells Rodan she isn't jealous that the boy is his student. Her expression turns serious and intense. Rodan smiles warmly at a nervous-looking Felix. Wah! He playfully ruffles Felix's white hair. The unexpected affection leaves Felix flustered and blushing. Holding a wooden staff, Rodan is ready for their first lesson. Wah! Felix nervously readies his own staff. As they head outside, Amelia watches from a window as their training begins. She looks on with a soft, satisfied smile. A mysterious, dark-haired woman with pointed ears glares with disdain. At the Imperial Palace, servants direct the flow of tribute for the new Empress. The blonde Gideon stands beside Empress Isolde, noting the lords are welcoming her ascension. Gideon smiles with smug satisfaction. Isolde muses about sending assassins now that her primary targets are gone. Gideon gives a sinister, toothy grin at the suggestion. Isolde grabs Gideon's chin, forbidding his involvement and ordering him to stay safe in the castle. He reluctantly agrees, replying understood. Walking alone, Gideon touches his neck in thought. His purple eyes narrow as he contemplates his situation. He realizes that with Isolde on the throne, his own power is now being limited. He grits his teeth, seething with frustration. He thinks of the Witch of Time, Amelia. With a sly smirk, Gideon vows to meet Amelia soon. A beautiful collection of jewelry is displayed for Amelia's selection. Amelia wonders what kind of outfit she should wear to the coronation. Her aide approaches, and she greets him by his name, Lelius. Lelius and Amelia discuss their preparations for the event. Lelius states he'll need to coordinate his outfit with hers. Under the assumed name of Mary, she lived in complete seclusion for nearly 2 years, rarely venturing out and seeing no one. She slyly considers that coordinating outfits might cause troublesome engagement rumors. She briefly considers taking Rodan as her escort instead. At the coronation ball, Amelia arrives with Lelius, sparking gossip among the guests. A flashback reveals Empress Isolde seized the throne, causing a terrified Felix to flee. All the Emperor's children were killed, except for Isolde's own son, Gideon. Realizing Isolde's plan, Amelia knows Felix is now the Empress's next target. She changes her mind, deciding to go to the coronation alone. She stares out the window, lost in thought. Lelius questions her decision, suggesting an escort would prevent unwanted attention. With a confident smirk, Amelia asks who he thinks she is, vowing to put any troublemakers to sleep. Lelius smiles and bows, accepting her formidable capabilities. Amelia calls out, sensing someone hiding nearby. Felix emerges from the shadows, apologizing sheepishly for eavesdropping. He asks why she isn't taking Rodan, but she dismisses the need for a bodyguard. She explains Rodan's duty is to stay and protect him. Felix still looks worried, admitting that while she is strong, he is still afraid for her. He gasps, overcome with anxiety for her safety. Amelia firmly reminds him he isn't invited and could be killed if discovered. She sits down, her decision final. Unbeknownst to her, assassins sent by Isolde have already infiltrated the territory. A confident Empress Isolde already suspects where Felix is hiding. Amelia calmly anticipates that her enemy will soon make a move. A more mature, resolute Felix is shown holding a sword among flowers. A younger Felix blushes, asking with excitement if it's really true. Amelia raises a finger to her lips, quieting him. With a confident smirk, she tells him he must first pass her trial. A smirking Empress Isolde declares his trial. Survive against the assassins she will send for him. Felix stands solemnly, understanding the grave condition he must meet. Amelia confirms the terms of the trial, and Felix accepts with a determined, understood. He contemplates the difficult task of defeating assassins without harming anyone nearby. In the forest, Rodan confronts a cloaked figure, beginning the trial. Ugh! As one assassin grunts, Felix swiftly engages another in a clash of swords. Smirking at their coordinated attacks, Felix decides to group them together by unleashing a blast of wind magic. Ugh! The assassins cry out as the powerful magic throws them into disarray. An assassin counters by summoning a swirling vortex of water around his sword. Yelling, "Freeze!" Felix casts a powerful spell, encasing his enemies in sharp crystals of ice. He looks down at his hands in shock as he is suddenly transformed into an adult. Stunned, he questions his new, more mature appearance. Amelia smiles knowingly, thinking his grown-up form will make him very popular. Looking in a mirror, he's amazed to find his voice has become deeper too. He blushes, hoping Master Amelia will now see him as a proper man. Now, dressed in a fine suit, Felix readies himself as Amelia announces they will begin preparations. He is overjoyed at the thought of accompanying his master. Now, towering over her, he smiles and enthusiastically agrees to her plans. A grand carriage waits to take them into town. Seated inside, Amelia announces that they have arrived. Wow! A tiny, chibi Felix expresses his awe at the fancy boutique. Felix blushes, thinking that shopping with his master feels like a date. A charismatic man with red hair welcomes Lady Amelia, who addresses him as Elder. The Elder offers to guide Amelia through his shop. Felix watches them, thinking the Elder is an impressive figure worthy of standing by her. He silently vows that one day he will be the one to escort her. A close-up reveals his fiercely determined red eyes. A shop assistant leads Felix to have his measurements taken. Meanwhile, Amelia consults with the Elder about dresses. The two continue their pleasant conversation while browsing. Felix stands patiently as he is fitted for a new suit. The Elder holds up an elegant gown, suggesting it would suit her perfectly. A tense moment passes between Felix and the Elder. Felix is left blushing furiously after seeing Amelia in her new dress. Amelia stands confidently, modeling the stunning green and white gown. She mentions wanting to check how easily she can dance in it. She seems surprised by her own words. The Elder smoothly holds out his hand, offering to be her partner. He and Amelia share an elegant dance among falling rose petals. He whispers that she has completely captivated him, making her blush. Felix glares, watching their dance with cold jealousy. The Elder gestures for Felix to follow him to another room. The Elder flashes a smug, knowing smile. He comments that Felix still has room for growth, making him feel inadequate. Having made their selections, Amelia tells the Elder to send the tailored clothes to her estate. A white-haired man blushes deeply, looking utterly charmed. He gently holds a dark-haired woman's hand, both dressed in formal attire. The woman, Amelia, decides to pick out some essential accessories. Holding a brooch, she considers imbuing it with tracking magic as a precaution. The white-haired man watches her, blushing with unrestrained adoration. He enthusiastically speaks to a startled Amelia. The two practice dancing in a grand sunlit room. Amelia smiles, encouraging him to relax and move more naturally. Yes, he eagerly replies, completely flustered and overjoyed. In a flashback, Amelia recalls dancing with the blonde Lord Iris, when everyone expected her to be Empress. She reflects that they underestimated her, as she never wanted to be Empress to the man who deceived her. Lord Iris's possessive words echo in her memory, "You belong to me forever." Her expression hardens with resolve. She gives him a gentle, reassuring smile. The white-haired man breaks into a huge, delighted grin. Amelia looks up at him with wide, surprised eyes. She looks away, a blush creeping onto her cheeks. Yes," he stammers, still beaming at her. Later, the man wipes sweat from his brow, looking pleased but tired. He remembers asking Lady Amelia to let him stay for a while. In the library, he asks Amelia if he can continue his lessons until the coronation. He eagerly explains his desire to properly learn manners in dancing. Amelia agrees with a sigh, saying it's no burden to her. A red-haired instructor corrects Amelia's posture as the white-haired man watches. Cloaked for anonymity, they walk through a town marketplace with another woman. He pauses, his eyes drawn to a colorful display of candy. Noticing his gaze, Amelia smiles and offers to buy him some. No, he stammers, insisting he was just looking because it was rare. He spars fiercely with a brown-haired man who praises his improving skills. Sweating and blushing, he looks pleased with the compliment. His instructor asks if he's been trying to pick up women in town. He defensively claims he's only been practicing how to appear mature. The instructor teases that he's still a little boy inside, which he angrily denies. With a wave, the instructor leaves him fuming. The scene shifts to a quiet, elegant sitting room at night. Lying in bed, he clutches his pillow, wishing he could grow up faster. His red eyes narrow with intense determination. Stern. He walks purposefully through a building at night. He arrives at a tavern, speaking to the bartender. Two women immediately approach him, charmed by his looks and inviting him for a drink. They begin to bicker, each claiming him for herself. As a chibi version of him wonders what Amelia is doing, the women shout in unison. He politely accepts a mug of beer from the bartender. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light flashes from the drink, startling him. Turning back to the women, he calmly tells them it's fine. With a charming smile, he advises them that fighting isn't good. He's now slumped against a wall outside, his hand bleeding. Clutching the brooch Amelia gave him, he longs to hear her voice as it glows and summons her. Whoa, Amelia appears before him as he stares up in awe, her asking what he's doing out so late. A white-haired man suddenly embraces Amelia, who cries out in surprise. She scolds him for reeking of alcohol, asking if he has been drinking. Calling him a troublesome boy, she creates a guiding light and tells him it's time to go home. The scene transitions to their grand estate under the night sky. Amelia watches over Felix as he lies passed out in bed. She turns to leave the quiet room. Suddenly, Felix's hand shoots out, grabbing her wrist. She looks down at him with a soft, knowing expression. Hovering over her, Felix desperately asks how he can make her see him as a grown man. He pins her down among a vision of white flowers as she stares up in shock. He asks if she will see him as a man then, but she remains silent and confused. Leaning closer, he earnestly asks what he needs to do to be seen as a man by Lady Amelia. Amelia looks startled by his intense, sudden confession. She thinks that there isn't actually a big age difference between him and Felix. As he holds her, she internally dismisses the thought, thinking, no, surely not. In a flashback, she recalls that because of Iris, she has lived a life without love. Lying beneath him, she sadly thinks she no longer knows how to love someone. She wonders what might have been if she'd met a straightforward man like Felix in her youth. A vision of a smiling, white-haired man appears in her thoughts. As she imagines a past romance, she wonders if her heart could have responded to such pure feelings. She snaps back to reality, flustered, realizing there is a 700-year age gap between them. To Felix, she thinks, she would be ancient history as he looks down at her, confused. Felix suddenly recoils, horrified as he realizes what he is doing. Scrambling off the bed, he frantically apologizes. He covers his face, overcome with embarrassment. Amelia sits up, coolly observing that he clearly has no tolerance for alcohol. The two now stand facing each other in the bedroom. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Amelia thinks a worthy woman will one day stand by his side. She gently places a hand on her stomach in a moment of quiet reflection. She offers him a deal. If his love for her lasts until he is a man, she will ask something of him. Felix eagerly promises to do anything, but she cautions him against hasty answers. She soberly reminds him that human emotions are fickle. He pauses, then asks what will happen if his feelings for her never change. He earnestly asks Lady Amelia to see him as a grown man when that day comes. She smiles, thinking that he truly wants to be treated like an adult. She recalls his past vow to grow strong and repay his debt to her. Gently stroking his hair, she warns him not to chase too many goals at once. She lifts his chin, telling him he will be a true man when his feelings are unwavering and his purpose is achieved. Blushing with joy, he breathes a simple yes. His expression hardens with resolve, thinking it will be impossible if he remains too gentle. Amelia stands before him, speaking of the day he grows into that man. She kisses his forehead, bids him good night, and leaves him stunned. A new day begins at a grand, gated estate. Amelia explains to Felix that this is the Ronin family's estate in the capital. Felix adds that the manor is protected by defensive wards, ensuring their safety. Looking over her shoulder, Amelia sternly reminds him not to forget it. Felix respectfully acknowledges her warning with an understood. Her aide, Lelius, is surprised to learn the Ronin family has an estate in the capital. Amelia explains the Ronin Marquisate has long-standing ties to the imperial family. A solemn, blue-haired woman reflects quietly by a window at night. In a flashback, she recalls being summoned daily as a mere display of power. A noble woman whispers to her companion, terrified of the former concubine's monstrous power. The blonde nobleman scoffs, arrogantly certain that she could never defy him. Ha! The dark-haired woman sighs, weary of the court's foolishness. Another lady walks past her at the banquet, adding to her isolation. Your Majesty, the Empress. The Empress smirks, taunting her about being offered as a sacrifice. As a vision of her holding a baby appears, the Empress cruelly denies she is loved. She internally scoffs, thinking she would never make such a foolish mistake. Throughout the palace, nobles gossip excitedly about the Empress's pregnancy. She walks through the halls, hoping an heir's birth might finally ease the Empress's hostility. Her thoughts are interrupted as she spots the pregnant Empress on the stairs below. Kia! The Empress suddenly loses her footing and tumbles down the stairs. Reacting instantly, the dark-haired woman casts a spell, shouting, "Watch out!" A cushion of magic safely lowers the Empress to the ground, stunning onlookers. The Empress glares up at her rescuer with pure hatred, thinking, "Witch!" On the balcony, she falsely accuses her rescuer of trying to cause a miscarriage. Stunned by the betrayal, the woman thinks, "I saved her, and yet Whispers spread among the maids, twisting the rescue into an assassination attempt. After a meal is delivered, she's seen being restrained, crying out in agony. She considers retaliating with her sealed divine power, but knows it would only worsen her situation. Resolving to endure until the heir is born, she watches as wine is poured. Suddenly, a burning pain sears her throat as she realizes she has been poisoned. Her own divine power becomes a curse, preventing death and trapping her in endless agony. After recovering, she is summoned by Iris to yet another evening banquet. She stands alone and composed amidst a sea of faceless party guests. A passing noblewoman accidentally spills a drink all over her dress. Clutching the stained fabric, she silently wonders why she must endure such endless torment. Her expression hardens with resolve, deciding she no longer needs to endure the harassment. She wonders why Iris allows this to continue as he socializes happily nearby. Realizing he pits everyone against each other for power, she deems him vile and forms her own plan. His greed for power led him to meddle with neighboring nations, planning wars. She recalls fighting in his wars, obtaining the Ronin territory as her reward. His ruthless nature, she reflects, is precisely what allowed him to become emperor. She remembers how he viewed everyone herself, the empress, and all his concubines, as mere tools for his empire. Their scorn had transformed into expressions of pure, unadulterated fear. Returning to the present, she stands with quiet, unshakable purpose. But not everyone bends to the emperor's will, as shown by a defiant, red-eyed Isolde. Laelius voices his concern, asking what she'll do if humiliated at the coronation. Her determined expression remains unchanged, showing her resolve. An aide worries about an attack on the Ronin territory, but she dismisses the threat. She proudly explains she spent centuries building her lands into a military and economic powerhouse. With a vision of breaking chains, she declares that nothing binds her anymore. Her territory is now so powerful, she claims, that it could declare itself an independent nation. A confident, knowing smile graces her lips as she weighs her newfound freedom. She adds with a smirk that if things get difficult, she still has an ace up her sleeve. Her two loyal aides can only look on, baffled by her cryptic confidence. Her advisor reminds her of the tradition requiring all territories to present tributes to the new emperor. The advisor reminds her of the tribute tradition. Amelia grins deviously, announcing it's time to collect. The scene shifts to a grand city, 1 week before Isolde's coronation. A blonde nobleman sits pensively, addressed as Lord Gideon. Gideon lets out a short, calculating laugh. He instructs a cloaked subordinate to investigate further and report back. Pointing, he summons another aide, who quickly responds, "Yes, sir?" Gideon asks his aide how his mother is doing. The aide reports that his mother has some unknown plans of her own. Knock, knock. A sound at the door interrupts Gideon's musings. A regal, blonde-haired woman enters, flanked by her entourage. Gideon rises, asking his mother if there's a problem. With a sly smile, she tells him they need to talk. She reminds him that nobles from across the country will attend the coronation. Looking him in the eye, she announces her intention to choose his fiancée. Gideon smirks, coolly replying that it's too soon for that. No, his mother retorts as a teacup crashes to the floor. She argues that behind-the-scenes maneuvering is necessary to secure their power. With a menacing smile, she calls him the only rightful heir to the imperial bloodline and vows to select a suitable partner for him from influential families. She grabs his arm, adding that anyone who opposes her will be made an example of. Gideon realizes Amelia could become his mother's next target and smirks, deciding to watch how she handles the coming harassment. He leans back on the couch, lost in thought. The scene transitions to the bustling streets of the imperial capital. An aide named Rodan helps Amelia down from her carriage. She informs him that she is going out for a while. Rodan smiles and acknowledges her request with a simple, "Got it." He stands guard outside the building, waiting patiently. Panting, a distressed young woman runs frantically through the streets. She grabs Rodan's uniform, desperately pleading for help, as he asks what's wrong. She kneels before him, crying that something terrible has happened. Rodan looks away, beginning to politely refuse her request. The woman grabs him and pulls him along, shouting for him to follow her. 3 brutish men spot them from down the street, shouting, "There they are." The woman urges him to hurry, as he's unwillingly led away. Amelia emerges from a shop, confused to find that Rodan is gone. She dismisses his absence, thinking, well, whatever. She calmly instructs her driver to take her to the central cemetery. Her hand places a beautiful bouquet on a gravestone, bearing the name Ronin. A ghostly vision of a white-haired man and a woman appears before her. A sudden noise startles her, causing her to whirl around. She stands alone on the path, a feeling of unease washing over her. Her eyes widen in absolute shock as she sees a familiar blonde man smiling at her. Stunned, she thinks his name Iris, believing he should be dead. The man, who looks just like Iris, smiles warmly amidst a shower of red roses. She reels back, refusing to believe that Iris could possibly be alive. Her mind races in panic as she wonders if she's seeing a ghost. The blonde man stands before her, an imposing figure in the quiet cemetery. He smirks, remarking that it's dangerous for a lady to be alone in a graveyard. He extends his hand toward a wary Amelia. He offers with a charming smile to escort her back to her estate. Amelia wonders if the man approaching is also in danger. A blonde man with a confident smirk greets Amelia. She eyes him suspiciously, determined to uncover his motives. He takes her hand, introducing himself as Aiden Parkshire. Kissing her hand, Aiden adds that he's a baron's second son. Amelia recalls that his family are wheat farmers from the West. He laughs, joking that his parents are probably furious he ran off. His strange behavior makes her increasingly uncomfortable. She tries to leave, stating that her attendant is waiting for her. With a flash of his red eyes, he quietly expresses his disappointment. He glances past her, spotting two men in uniform in the distance. A sly, knowing smile spreads across his face. He suddenly grabs her wrist, begging her to stay with him. "Hey," she cries out as he pulls her away from the path. Holding her close, he whispers an apology and asks her to act like his lover. He explains his servant is looking for him as he pins her against a tree. He continues holding her firmly in place. Annoyed, Amelia notes his resemblance to Iris and his rude forwardness. The two uniformed men search the grounds, concluding he isn't there. Aiden breathes a sigh of relief after they leave. Amelia presses a hand against his chest, trying to push him away. She silently threatens to blast him with magic if he doesn't back off. He releases her hand, offering a simple apology. Flustered, she tries to convince herself he's just a look-alike, not a ghost from her past. She muses that even Felix looks similar, but his personality is far more honest. Aiden's eyes widen in shock. He reflects that while she smiles now, he never saw her smile in his memories. He asks to meet again to properly thank her. Turning her back, Amelia thinks they likely won't see each other again. She says her goodbyes and walks away. Aiden watches her depart, his expression unreadable. Later, he realizes she is Amelia Ronan, the infamous Witch of Time. He recalls seeing the woman he admired in his dreams, picturing her at a grave. In memories of a past life, Amelia was the first person he ever saw. He thinks to himself that she remains as beautiful as ever. He describes her as a strong, tragic woman, carrying the power of the gods. Clenching his fist with glowing eyes, he vows to make her his. A promotional page displays other series available from the publisher. A horse-drawn carriage departs from the grand estate. Amelia instructs her coachman to return to a store they visited earlier. She gazes out the carriage window, lost in thought. Her aide looks on with sudden concern. He rushes to the carriage door, asking if she is all right. Amelia reassures him that she is fine and just heading home. A smiling Felix warmly welcomes Lady Amelia back to the mansion. He turns to the aide, asking if something happened to her. The aide explains that she was strangely quiet during the entire ride back. Felix looks on with concern, lamenting that he is still powerless to help her. Alone in a sitting room, Amelia broods over her encounter. She reflects on the shocking resemblance to Iris, whose bloodline she believed had ended. Amelia remains lost in thought, her expression unreadable. The scene shifts as a bell tolls over the grand city. A new empress is crowned, taking her place on the throne. Clapping echoes as Amelia and her aide watch from the crowd. After the coronation, a lavish ball begins in the palace. Her aide navigates his way through the bustling crowd of nobles. Dressed in formal attire, Felix stands with Amelia. A guest wonders about the beautiful woman accompanying Marquis Ronan. Amelia looks slightly uneasy amidst the grand festivities. She turns to Felix, gently telling him to relax. He eagerly responds, trying to compose himself. With a confident smile, Amelia promises to protect him. She recalls her past, where elemental magic saved her from being burned as a witch, though poison and stabbings still brought pain. A chibi Amelia cheekily thinks that cleaning up blood is a hassle. Her aide continues to move through the crowded ballroom. Amelia's sharp gaze reveals her unwavering resolve. The scene briefly shows an empty, ornate hall. Felix anxiously thinks about a foreign woman now ruling the empire. He muses that the Iris bloodline may rise again if nothing happens to Lord Gideon. He grimly recalls that all the other princes were purged. A painful memory surfaces of Isolde's brutal orders, how Julianne died to protect him, and how Lady Amelia saved his life, making him wish for an end to the tyranny. He questions if he has the strength to face Isolde. His thoughts turn to the mysterious first prince Gideon. He recalls not being able to see Gideon at the coronation and worries if the prince also wants him dead. Amelia stands by herself, scanning the dance floor. As a man calls Amelia's name, Felix watches from a distance. The blonde man, Aiden, approaches Amelia with a smirk, greeting her again. He extends his hand, asking her for a dance. Amelia bluntly refuses, stating she has enough partners. Aiden leans closer, suggesting he wouldn't have caused trouble if she'd accepted. In a chibi exchange, she points out other women, but he insists he only wants her. Amelia glares at him, her patience wearing thin. With a confident smile, Aiden tells her to look forward to it. He walks away, immediately surrounded by a group of admiring ladies. Amelia lets out a frustrated sigh. She then notices Felix looking flustered as he too is swarmed by women. The grand ball continues, with couples dancing across the floor. A brilliant crown rests on a velvet cushion. Empress Isolde wears the crown, her expression regal and cold. The newly crowned empress stands in all her glory. Amelia eyes the empress, wondering if she's being ignored or is truly unrecognized. Felix watches Isolde from afar, acknowledging her as his enemy. He doubts she'll recognize his adult form, but remains on edge. The empress seems to glance his way, making him flinch. She formally accepts the golden scepter of power. On her throne, she announces her ascension as the new empress. She speaks of the previous emperor's corruption and the chaos that befell the empire. She blames the rampant corruption on a false reconciliation with her homeland. Raising the scepter, she vows to rebuild and forge a new, powerful empire. The crowd erupts in cheers, hailing Empress Isolde of Charlier. A regal blonde woman smiles with smug satisfaction. Now crowned, the empress confronts a viscount, accusing him of obstructing her ascension. The viscount breaks into a cold sweat, terrified by her accusation. The empress coldly orders him taken away as a guard complies. "Yes, your majesty." Turning her attention, she questions a count's offering of imported tea sets. She asks menacingly if foreign goods are a fitting gift for her. The count frantically apologizes, explaining he only chose it for its rarity and will find another gift. Tapping her fan, she demands he give her his family's most treasured heirloom, a gemstone. She internally celebrates her victory, declaring the empire is finally under her control. She reflects on her bloody path to power, killing her husband, eliminating rival princes, and planning to conquer neighboring nations to forge an even greater empire. Manipulating a doll representing her son, she vows to be remembered as the empire's founder and to make Gideon the greatest emperor in history. Elsewhere, Amelia and her aides are discussed as the Ronin family, who harbors the former emperor's illegitimate heir. The empress vows to make an example of defiant nobles, while Amelia coolly assesses her as an unwise ruler. Amelia reflects that while Iris's heirs were never this venomous, this new empress feels disturbingly similar to him. Her expression hardens as she calculates her next move. With Iris's bloodline gone, she feels the country no longer binds her. Amelia and her aides formally offer their congratulations to the new empress. The empress addresses them from her throne with a slight sneer. Amelia's brown-haired advisor smiles slyly, ready to play his part. He continues speaking with carefully chosen words. The empress flinches, her thoughts turning to a survivor of the former emperor's bloodline. The advisor innocently asks if there is anyone besides a criminal that she would search for so personally. Gritting her teeth, the empress barely contains her rage. Amelia internally praises her advisor, Aurelius, for his perfectly crafted response. The empress furiously dismisses the person as a mere thief, demanding Aurelius hand over the criminal, even if it is a child, to which he calmly agrees is his duty. Aurelius maintains his composed, agreeable smile. Clenching her fist, she furiously demands evidence and scoffs at their arrogance in having it a time witch. The empress rises, demanding they prove their loyalty right now. She proposes sending Amelia to serve in the inner palace. She issues a veiled threat, warning that the Ronin domain should not risk being branded as traitors. Suddenly, Gideon steps forward, calmly stating he will overlook the suspicion. The white-haired aide panics, thinking Lady Amelia is now in danger. Pushed to the floor, Amelia looks up, wondering why she should be subjected to this. Surrounded by a flourish of roses, Gideon dramatically pleads, "Please wait, your majesty." He repeats his plea, his expression earnest. Stunned by his intervention, Amelia wonders what he is doing. The scene lingers on a grand chandelier as his status is hinted at. Gideon's gaze is sharp, his thoughts on the Ronin family's connection. With a charming smile, he suggests a fiancé for the crown prince would be a more suitable role than a lady-in-waiting. Amelia is shocked that a mere baron's son would dare interrupt such a high-level discussion. Glaring at him, she silently warns him not to blame her if he gets himself killed. The empress rejects the idea, stating a family suspected of treason cannot produce a future empress. Gideon clarifies that Amelia would be just one of several candidates. He gestures to other noblewomen, suggesting princesses and daughters of influential families as other options. He declares the most suitable bride will be chosen from among them, and the Empress seems to consider his sly proposal. She thoughtfully holds her fan, weighing her son's unexpected move. Smiling, the Empress agrees to hear his opinion on the matter. Gideon smirks, his plan having succeeded. Amelia is completely baffled, questioning his use of the word son. She realizes his identity as a barren son was a lie, recalling a vision of his true, more powerful self. The Empress proudly presents her son, Crown Prince Gideon. Gideon smiles menacingly, offering a pleasant greeting. He says he looks forward to knowing them, as Amelia's aides bow respectfully. Amelia glares with cold fury. Her white-haired aide looks on with anxious concern. He worries about Lady Amelia being placed in the inner palace. The Empress informs Amelia she must now learn palace etiquette. Aurelius realizes this accusation is a serious, calculated move. Amelia sighs, acknowledging the situation has become troublesome. The Empress smugly declares it an honor and schedules a formal meeting with Prince Gideon. As her carriage departs, an aide worriedly asks if Amelia is okay. Amelia confidently tells him not to worry, planning to use an illusion to make Gideon reject her. She gives a final instruction should she not return by nightfall. Her white-haired aide listens, his face etched with worry. The day arrives for Amelia's formal greeting with Crown Prince Gideon at his grand palace. Dressed in purple, Amelia formally greets the smiling prince. Gideon apologizes for his earlier deception, explaining he couldn't reveal his identity in public for safety. He lifts a teacup, suggesting they discuss matters over tea. He calmly sips his tea, observing her. Amelia's vision suddenly blurs as she realizes something is wrong before passing out. Smiling Gideon stands over her unconscious form, bidding her goodnight. Amelia groans, now lying unconscious on a bed. Waking up, she realizes the tea was drugged and curses herself for letting her guard down. Gazing at the moon, she worries about Felix and her other aides. Crackle! She reaches for the window only to be stopped by a glowing magical barrier. Startled, she wonders if the room is sealed by a barrier. She questions if Empress Isolde plans to torture her for information. She wryly notes the room is far too luxurious for that purpose. Gideon appears, greeting her as he caresses her face, saying he can finally touch her. Shocked, Amelia wonders what he is doing. A vision of a regal, smirking Gideon appears, surrounded by purple roses. She thinks furiously that killing the crown prince would be a massive problem. She grips her dress, feeling her power suppressed. Touching her chin, she confirms that her magic has been sealed. As she demands he stop his jokes, he pulls her close, whispering that he's waited a long time for this. He darkly announces they will become husband and wife tonight. Outside, the white-haired aide looks up at the palace under the night sky. He recalls Amelia's warning to assume she's in a trap if she doesn't return by nightfall. His face hardens with worry as he says her name. The white-haired aide rallies a companion, declaring, "Let's go, Felix," to which the man agrees. Gideon smiles possessively, calling her my Amelia. She turns her head away as he tries to touch her face. TSK, he leans in for a kiss as her eyes blaze with fury. Pow! She slaps him hard across the face, shouting, "Stop!" He invites her to struggle, wanting to see every side of her. Amelia stands defiantly by the window. She clenches her fist, her patience worn thin. Crash! The white-haired aide bursts through the doors, sword drawn, shouting her name. Holding Amelia, Gideon looks up in shock and asks, "What?" The white-haired aide clashes swords with Gideon, angrily shouting, "You!" Tisk! The aide is thrown back by the force of the blow. A wave of dizziness washes over the white-haired aide as he struggles to stay focused. Gideon smirks, noting the troublesome magic used to hide his opponent. The aide's eyes burn with red intensity as he shouts, "Don't touch Amelia." Gideon internally notes that a blood relative of the imperial family being in love with Amelia is a problem. He condescendingly dismisses the aide as just a boy. Gideon suddenly kisses Amelia, possessively declaring, "Amelia belongs to me." The white-haired aide watches in horror as Amelia's eyes glow with shock. The aide furiously unleashes a wave of blue magic, yelling for Gideon to get away from Lady Amelia. Gideon is blasted by the magical force. He thinks with annoyance that his opponent can use magic as well. Gideon smiles cruelly, deciding it would be best to kill him right here. Gathering his power, the white-haired aide declares that he won't lose. Gideon raises his sword, conjuring a massive magic circle to defend himself. The aide's magic is repelled, sending him flying back with a cry of pain. As Gideon stands victorious, Amelia silently wonders if the aide is dead. She looks on, her face pale with fear. Blushing, Gideon tells Amelia he's happy it's the first time she's called him Gideon. He leans in, proclaiming that she will finally become his tonight because she belongs to him. A dark, obsessive vision of Gideon fills her mind. Surrounded by chains, Amelia decides she would rather choose death now. She thinks of the scar her death will leave on Felix's heart as he groans in pain. The scene shifts as Felix looks on in confusion, now seeing Amelia in someone else's arms. A glowing, ornate key suddenly materializes from her chest. She tells him that if he pulls out the key, she will be free. Felix watches her, his expression a mixture of sorrow and resolve. In another timeline, Felix is violently kicked away by Gideon. Kneeling beside her on the bed, Felix asks if he just needs to pull the key, and she confirms. Their hands join together over the glowing key on her chest. He holds her hand tightly, preparing to pull the key. Surrounded by roses, he holds her close, promising to finally free her from this eternal life. As he pulls, she thinks that at last, she can finally die. Felix now holds the glowing key in his hand. The key vanishes from Amelia's chest, leaving only a faint shimmer. With the key gone, she clutches her chest, wondering why it aches. She remembers raising Felix from a young age, all so he would one day grant her release. Flashbacks of their time together flood her mind, reinforcing that there should be no hesitation. Amelia recalls proudly watching Felix grow, noting his natural talent for magic and swordsmanship. He closes his eyes in pain while she looks on with a gentle, accepting smile. An enraged Gideon glares from the side. "Don't look at that brat with that kind of face," Gideon growls possessively. He grabs her hands, and she notices he's holding something. Gideon drives his sword into the floor, remembering a divine stake Iris used to seal away a god. Amelia realizes in terror that he's trying to pull out the stake. Gideon panics, thinking that releasing the god will also remove Amelia's immortality. He realizes with horror that if her power disappears, she might not just die, she could vanish entirely. He inwardly screams that he absolutely cannot let that happen. A memory surfaces of Gideon as Emperor, recalling the moment he realized she belonged to Iris. A white-haired boy concludes that if Amelia is immortal, she must still be alive somewhere. Blushing with determination, the boy declares that he wants to meet her. In a memory, the Empress embraces a younger Gideon, promising to make him the greatest emperor. Her hand on his chin, she vows to eliminate their rivals. Gideon smiles and readily agrees with his mother's plan. Now a man, he stands over a bloody scene, his sword in hand, declaring, "This is for everything." His obsession is revealed. Everything is to obtain Amelia, whose disappearance would ruin his dream. In the present, Gideon screams for them to stop as Amelia urges Felix to pull the key. Gideon shouts a desperate warning that pulling the key will kill Amelia. Felix turns, momentarily confused by the sudden outburst. With a furious expression, Gideon brings his sword down on Felix. Amelia shouts a warning, but Felix is brutally struck. As Gideon's sword pierces Felix, Amelia screams his name in horror. Cradling the dying Felix, she frantically promises to heal him immediately. She gathers a glowing orb of healing magic at his wound. Seeing Felix weaken, she fears he is about to die. She despairs, lamenting that despite holding a god's power, she cannot save her first disciple. A sudden realization brings a sharp focus to her eyes. The narration explains the key is a god's power, and that Felix, a blessed child, can touch it. She realizes the only way to save him is for him to inherit her immortality. Apologizing to Felix, she prepares to transfer the key's power to him. Gideon watches in shock, demanding to know what she is doing. With unwavering resolve, Amelia holds the glowing key above Felix. She plunges the magical key directly into Felix's chest. An explosion of light envelops Felix as the key sinks into his body. His eyes open as he weakly calls out Amelia's name. Amelia sadly apologizes for burdening him with the power she longed to be free of. Revitalized, Felix rejects the power, refusing to let her disappear for his sake. Enraged, Gideon unleashes a massive blade of purple energy, screaming he won't let her vanish. The blast hits, and Amelia and Felix are caught in the bright explosion. A bracelet of ice forms on her wrist as she realizes what's happening. She recalls her long-ago request for him to one day kill her properly. An eruption of ice magic throws Felix back as he desperately reaches for her. With a serene look, Amelia is completely encased in a massive crystal. A desperate, echoing scream of her name fills the air. The story jumps forward 5 years. A matured Felix vows with grim determination to bring Amelia back. You're the one who will kill me, my love. Felix now stands solemnly before a grand portrait of Amelia. Looking up at her image, he softly says her name. A smiling man in a white uniform announces that it is finally time. Felix agrees, noting the 5 long years that have passed. He angrily slams his fist against a wall, declaring it's been too long. He fumes that his weakness allowed Gideon to possess her for 5 years. Filled with rage, Felix declares they will hurry and retrieve her. His companion smirks, adding he's eager to receive his own reward from her. In a brief, stylized interlude, a smug man in white shrugs at an irritated Felix. The man in white says, "Let's go," and Felix, sword in hand, agrees. A dark memory shows Gideon possessively caressing a fearful Amelia. Gideon recalls his failure, remembering the divine key he couldn't draw out was sealed away. Felix recalls how Amelia saved his dying life by transferring the divine key to him, which resulted in her being sealed in stone by Gideon. On the ground, Felix cries out in guilt, blaming himself for what happened to Lady Amelia. He remembers a voice telling him she's waiting for the day the seal is broken by the divine child, realizing his destiny as he holds the key. Stealing his resolve, the young Felix vows to save Lady Amelia no matter what. The scene shifts to the snowy peaks of the Holy Land, Mount Aurelie. 5 years later, Felix's companion wonders aloud how much the Empress knows about the incident. Felix looks on thoughtfully. The companion recalls the Empress suppressing the Ronin territory, assuming she believes it's powerless without its Witch of Time. He continues his explanation with a knowing look. He remembers Felix's claim of going to the battlefield for intense training, a bloody memory flashing by. Over the mountains, a tiny Felix confirms with a simple, "Yeah." Felix assures his companion that he will know beforehand if the Empress is plotting anything, and the man agrees. The companion suddenly spots a large ornate temple in the distance, realizing that's their destination. Felix readies a magical dagger, thinking he must first break the barrier. The blade glows with a bright, ethereal energy. With a powerful cry, Felix unleashes a wave of magic from the dagger. His blast of energy smashes into a vibrant pink hexagonal barrier. Crash! The barrier shatters under the force of his attack. The companion cheers that the barrier is finally broken. Felix turns, urging his comrades to follow him toward the temple. They enter a long, majestic hallway lined with pillars. Wham! Felix throws open the heavy doors at the end of the hall. Inside, they find Amelia suspended within a giant blue crystal on a dais. He runs toward her, promising that he has finally come to save her. He reaches out, his hand glowing as it touches the crystal's surface. A look of grim determination crosses his face. A blonde man appears with guards, screaming for them not to touch his goddess, Amelia. The brown-haired companion shouts Gideon's name in alarm. Gideon smiles possessively, admiring Amelia's beauty and boasting of how he has treasured her. Enraged, Felix ignites his sword with power and snarls. Drop dead. He leaps through the air, bringing his glowing sword down on Gideon. Boom! His power collides with the floor. A final, concussive blast echoes through the hall. Defeated, Gideon slumps to the ground amidst the settling dust. Felix stands victorious over his fallen foe, turning his attention back to Amelia. He faces the crystal, apologizing for taking so long to gain the power to break her seal. Reaching through the crystal's surface, he gently takes her hand in his. As he draws her out, the massive crystal begins to crack and break apart. With a final flash of light, the crystal prison shatters into countless shards. He catches her as she falls, pulling her into a desperate, long-awaited embrace. Nestled against his shoulder, Amelia's eyes slowly open. She whispers his name in confusion as he holds her, telling her he has come for her. Looking around the grand hall, she dazedly asks where she is. Memories flood her mind as she wonders what happened after she gave him the key. On the floor, Gideon weakly orders Felix, "Don't touch her." Fueled by rage, Gideon rises, screaming that he won't let Felix have his goddess. Felix coldly tells him to shut up, his sword glowing ominously. He raises his sword, its ethereal light flaring. From outside, a massive explosion rips through the side of the temple. "Ugh," Gideon cries out, caught in the devastating blast. A sword appears at Gideon's throat, and he gasps in shock. Felix holds his blade to Gideon, declaring she is not his and thinking he could easily kill him. HK, Gideon chokes in terror, his eyes wide with fear. Felix says his own name with cold finality as his companion watches from behind. His hand crackles with intense, destructive purple energy. He unleashes the magic, blasting a massive hole through the temple ceiling. The destructive force continues to tear through the sacred grounds. The brown-haired companion looks up in alarm as debris rains down. Now cradling Amelia, Felix glares back at the defeated Gideon, warning him never to touch her again. He gently floats to the ground with Amelia in his arms, using wind magic to cushion their descent. Back at the manor, a man with glasses welcomes Lady Amelia home, and she quietly announces her return. Asked how she is, a tiny chibi Amelia cheerfully reports that she is fine. Amelia sits alone on an ornate sofa, lost in thought. She asks her aide where Felix is, and the man simply smiles. He informs her that Felix seems to be busy, and she looks down in disappointment. In a memory, Felix carries her against a sunset sky, promising they'll be at the manor soon. Amelia recalls being told that 5 years have passed since the incident. She watches as Felix walks away from the manor into the night. Standing alone in the darkness, she wonders if he is avoiding her. She reflects on how much he has changed, wondering if it's due to growing up or that fateful day. A tiny, frustrated Amelia fumes amid a background of fire. Annoyed, she concludes that all of Felix's former charm has vanished. She laments that his gaze has turned cold, blaming that man for corrupting her disciple. Confused by his past and present self, she wonders how she should act around him now. Looking out the window, she quietly asks what happened to him. Her companions enter the room, and the man in the white uniform advises her to rest. Alone once more, she realizes that even with the key gone, she hasn't disappeared. A glowing orb of blue magic materializes above her hand. She concludes the curse of immortality has passed to Felix along with the key. Sighing, she admits she can't blame him for hating her. In a sprawling garden, Felix scoffs to himself. While training, he recalls the day Amelia saved him by transferring the key, now embedded in his abdomen. He watches her through a window, relieved she didn't vanish when he freed her. A close-up reveals his intensely focused red eyes. He remembers trying to reject the key as she placed it in him. He runs a hand through his hair in quiet frustration. He worries that his love has warped into obsession and fears he might hurt her. With renewed conviction, he vows he will never lose her again. A happy memory of hugging her as a boy contrasts with his current, somber expression. The narration notes the changes must be jarring for Amelia after 5 years of slumber. He recalls the moment he looked down at her after breaking the crystal seal. He lists the many skills from swordsmanship to magic that he mastered. He reveals he did it all for Lady Amelia's sake. His hand tightens into a determined fist. He remembers telling a smiling Amelia that he worked hard for her. Cringing at the memory, he feels his words sounded childish and regrets his awkward silence earlier. As he carries her, Amelia asks him to tell her what happened while she was sealed away. Felix reports that little has changed, which Amelia finds surprisingly quiet for the Empress. Relieved, Amelia smiles and then turns the question to Felix himself. She gently touches his cheek, asking him how he has been. Felix quietly agrees that not much has changed for him either. A tense silence fills the dining hall as Felix and Amelia sit at opposite ends of a long table. Her gentle question leaves him blushing and flustered. Amelia smiles warmly as a servant pours her a glass of wine. She gazes at Felix, who avoids her eyes with a stoic expression. She maintains her gentle, knowing smile. From the side, her aides observe the awkward atmosphere. Later, Felix's companion asks if he managed to talk things over with her. The companion smiles, reminding him of their bond as master and disciple. The other aide, a man named Archie, looks on with concern. The companion laughs, noting it's been 2 years since Archie became Felix's right hand. He explains to Archie that Felix's coldness must seem strange to those who only know him now. They discuss how precious Amelia is to Felix, as she is the one who saved his life. Archie listens intently, processing the information. The companion smirks, admitting their situation is indeed strange from an outside perspective. Walking alone down a dark hall, Felix concedes that things are complicated. He steps out of the shadows and into a sunlit garden. A close-up shows sunlight dappling across his intense red eyes. His companion thinks of Lady Amelia as fragments of their formal meeting flash by. He offers a small, knowing smile. While training with his sword, Felix glances up at Amelia watching from a distant balcony. A close-up reveals Amelia's quietly observant eyes. In a memory, she reflects on burdening a young Felix with the heavy weight of immortality. She recalls her resolve to raise him properly before the day she vanished. To achieve this, she had reached out, realizing she needed his help. While training in a lake, Felix is suddenly jolted by a strange magical presence. A glowing blue orb appears in his hand, and he wonders what it is. His eyes widen in panic as he fears something terrible has happened to Amelia. He is stunned as a younger Amelia is suddenly summoned before him, calling out his name. Recognizing the summoning, he rushes out of the water to grab his cloak. As she lands, Amelia's heel catches on the fabric, and she stumbles. Amelia! Felix cries out, reaching for her in alarm. He catches her just before she hits the ground, holding her securely in his arms.